This meeting will be audio and video recorded. First order of business we have this evening will be to discuss the draft articles for town meeting.
Certainly. Okay. The Board of Selectmen met last night and went through and approved most of the articles for submission on the warrant. They're right now holding the GIS plotter, let me see, I had it in blue and it's too close to black. And they're also holding, mine's on color. Who's got a better color? This blue looks too much like black. Okay, sorry, the Golf Enterprise Fund, the Golf Capital Article, the GIS plotter, and
solar credits,
zoning amendment. But they also have removed the Article 19, which was the police chief removal from civil service, and they have removed the $110,000 for the sewer refund. So that was Article 12. So right at the moment, those are coming off. I didn't bother to actually take them out completely, just put a line through them, because I don't want to have to renumber the articles until I'm ready for publication. Just adds a certain amount of confusion to my life. So what I would like to try to do this evening is to get through the warrants. If we still have one more Wednesday meeting that we can do to wrap everything up. We're still waiting for the police contract numbers to come in. We have an agreement in principle, we think. And as long as that is adopted by the selectmen next Monday night and the union next Wednesday night, then we'll be able to submit to you a balanced budget for adoption and inclusion into the warrant. And if we really get into trouble, we could borrow one more Wednesday, but I'd really like not to. And so we've got to approve the articles and the funding and the recommended amount. So some of them don't take much time to do. Article 1 is accept the town reports, no problem. The snow deficit, right now we're projecting 10 grand.
Currently.
Currently,
Yeah.
we're waiting for our final numbers from DPW.
Yeah.
So that's great. The union and personnel conference will wait for the settlement to see where we're gonna go there. Apply for state and federal grants. People ask why we have to do this. In order to spend the grant money, we have to apply, get it, and we have to have a town meeting authorization to spend it. So this is the town meeting's authorization to spend grant money that we get. The next one is to accept Chapter 90 money and spend it, which is the roads. Number 7 may come out, checking if that's even necessary anymore. This allows the treasurer to borrow from time to time with approval of the selectmen. But we think that that was actually in the Municipal Modernization Act and probably doesn't need to be here anymore. So we're double checking that. We're gonna skip over the golf enterprise funds until the selectmen approve that, if that's okay with you guys. Although if you'd like to, we could talk about their capital article, because that's a little, that caused a little consternation in the Board of Selectmen last night, so we'll just go through that briefly to make sure that you understand why. The sewer enterprise fund is here, fine. The I&I plan, so what was, can we do the sewer enterprise? Do we give you numbers on sewer enterprise?
Yeah.
Sewer enterprise is Article 10. So if you open your warrant to 10, Those numbers are gonna be the final numbers for sewer enterprise. So if you're happy with those,
I don't have any numbers here.
it's in the warrant,
Oh, okay.
page 17. It's not a heck of a lot different than
No.
last year. So that one is acceptable, if that's acceptable. Do you want to vote these one at a time, or what would you like to do?
What's your preference? You have a preference? One at a time, or?
If we go them all, then we have to go back all over and if we do one.
Well, it'll be the ones you didn't vote, so then we have to keep track of the ones you didn't vote.
Yeah, we just, one that we want to hold.
Okay.
I don't think we have to do it line item, we could do it by the.
Like the article, you happy with the sewer enterprise fund?
Yes,
That's
right.
what I want to know.
Want to vote on that?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just let's get these off the table. Okay.
Article 10, motion to accept.
Motion. Second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
The next article is Article 11, which is the I&I investigation program every 2 years. As Dan explained, when the action of the the manholes and sewer lines to prevent the infiltration and inflow of extraneous surface water. And we do it every 2 years. It costs $57,000. It will save you theoretically, you don't know exactly until you actually see it, about 20 grand a year forever. Okay, so then of course, and this is one of the points that Mr. Gasper made, is you do these sections, 1/5 of this thing, 1/5 of the 1/5, every 2 years. Then when the time you come around again, you're gonna do it, you're gonna start again. So his point is we should wait some time when we get around the clock to, that's a valid point. So we'll see when we get there. Right at the moment, the 57 would come out of the sewer reserve.
This article, this is for checking the leaks in the system for water that's leaking
Yep.
out.
Yep. I keep saying I&I fast, like everybody knows what I&I,
Yeah,
infiltration and
Basically,
inflow.
it's to check for water leakage.
Correct.
Okay.
So are you approving that?
Make a motion.
Motion.
Accept.
I'll second it, yeah.
Motion made, seconded. Article 11, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Okay, the next article still on the warrant is the GIS plotter for conservation in 2000. The selectmen have held that, so you don't necessarily have to vote on it until they have your choice.
Which one is that?
That one was Article 13, it's in Article 13.
Oh, it's in article.
Now, when you said it's being held, right, isn't it?
The selectmen have held it.
Yeah.
I think we can pick up a used one, cheap. So if it's $2,000, it's not gonna kill me either way, so.
Motion on Article 13 with the exception of the conservation GIS plotter.
I'd make a motion to accept.
Second.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Article 13 with the exception of the GIS plotter, $2,000.
Okay, in Article 13, there's 2 articles for copy machines, one for town hall, one for police department. I'm recommending one for the police department and holding on the one for town hall. Or holding off on it.
Holding on the police department?
Go forward with the police one
Okay.
and not on the town hall one. We have there's a black and white machine over at the fire station that the chief has said that we could take. So I'm gonna see if we can make that last a year. I mean, we can't work without a copy machine, obviously, but I'd like to see what we can do just with what we got. We still have 2 in this room, this building, and got the small machines, like on everybody's desktop kind of thing, for the small jobs. And Board of Health has a copy machine, so can't we work with what we got? So, that's my thought. So, approve the police and don't approve the town hall one is my recommendation.
Just a couple of questions.
Sure.
The tanker repair, we still don't have.
The tanker repair is coming in at $5,000.
Okay, 5,000.
5,000,
And
which is good.
bulk item pickup, is that for 13? Is
13.
that one time? Is that?
That's the one time. We needed about 20 grand. We still have money left over in an old article, so
Yeah.
I added the 2 together to get 20, and I need 13 more.
Okay.
So we want to go to that. And then speed limit signs are $7,500. The chief did a traffic study in the village area, and we want to take advantage of the new law that allows the Board of Selectmen to set the speed limit to 25 miles an hour and drop the speed limit in the village roads to 25, and that's 57 speed limit signs to put out.
Is that putting them up, or is that just buying them?
That's both,
Both.
yeah. In the highway department, they've got a request for a lift gate and a Mohawk lift. We heard Dan speak on that. I'm recommending, Julie and I are recommending that you do that. And then what do we have left? The town hall roof repair, 30 grand. I really do need this. It's raining on Mel upstairs, so we really need to fix the roof.
It's almost time.
Yeah, almost.
Water department pickup truck, excuse me, it shouldn't say pickup truck, it should say
Utility truck.
utility truck. All right, we'll put that in. And so that's 60 grand. And voting machines for $30,000. Bulky, not bulking, item pickup for 13. So I'm recommending those.
We've already voted on it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Article 14, right now, this article is for the additional road repair. The request originally was 250. At the moment, I'm recommending 220.
220.
220. That's one you could hold until we can come back on the final number, because a lot depends upon what I have to put into the police contract to see what I have left over.
Okay, so it's still flexible.
I'd like to, yes, it is.
If we vote on 220, and you have.
You can always up it, sure.
We can up it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
We should
6 of 1.
word it that way.
6 of 1. You can hold it,
Yeah,
just do it
why don't we
later.
hold it?
All right. Next item is the schools capital articles, which, Bob, you said you wanted to eliminate entirely?
Well, that's gonna have to be the recommendation.
Yeah. Jen. Okay, we do that for those at home because Jennifer's in the audience, so we're just teasing her. The first item is curriculum adoption at $50,000. Last night, they came in and made a great presentation again before the Board of Selectmen on their priorities. And they had ranked their priorities, which I will pass. The selectmen actually took that into a consideration.
They have that.
They do have it? Thank you very much. So curriculum adoption was their number one on their hit parade, and we can fund that. The driveway parking lot maintenance, there's still money in an article from last year on the driveway maintenance, so I'm recommending that we don't fund it at that. I'm recommending we fund it at $20,000.
Which one was that?
The driveway repair?
That's number 5.
Yeah. The gymnasium door replacement, had a lot of conversation. I think we can do it for less than 8,000. I gotta get Jim over there to look at it first, but I'm recommending zero funding at this time.
That's it. So that's our item number 3.
That's their item number 3. Yep. I'm going down the article.
Right.
Okay. The gymnasium wall, that does need to be replaced. It's functional at the moment. I'm gonna recommend, because of the cost of it, that it wait another year. It is on their list, at number 3, but it's 80 grand, so I don't have it. So I would recommend that would just wait till next year, see what we have then. The roof condensers, that's for the kitchen equipment, if I'm correct. The repairs on that are rather high. They, where did they put the roof condensers? They put their roof condensers at number 3 rather, $30,000. I'm recommending that you do it. I think that in the long run, you can't afford an emergency repair. It's the kitchen, so you want to do them. So I'm recommending that get funded. The roof preventative maintenance, I'm not recommending full funding on that. The roof preventative maintenance, they're asking for 25. They had an article last year for 50. They've spent about 15 out of that article so far, so I'm recommending just refilling the 15.
15 as opposed to 25.
Correct. The server room air conditioner, they've got a request in for that. This is important. They've got a request at 8,000. I'm recommending 6,000. Not that it's a big deal, but we should be able to use. We sent Jim and Tyler to HVAC school, and I'd like to see if we can't do that construction in-house. So that would be the purchase of the equipment, but no labor. We'd take the labor out of the town maintenance budget. So that's the idea of doing that.
6,000.
6,000. They've got an article request for technology equipment refresh. This is the instructional technology in classrooms, etc., for 25,000. That is modest, considering the dollar amount of technology they have and the dependency they have in technology. If you don't know it now, if you don't do it in a regular cycle, it'll cost you more later. I'm recommending funding that. Upgrading the burglar and fire alarm, I'm combining that as one article. They have refined their number to be 35 for the burglar alarm, 40 for the fire alarm, so that's 75,000 in total. And I'm recommending that be done for several reasons. The fire alarm is 17 years old. The heads on the smoke detectors are $100 a piece. They needed 370 of them. So there's the bulk of your article. Since we're gonna put electricians into the campus to get those wired in, we might as well do the burglar alarm at the same time. The fire alarm, in my opinion, is emphatic, because if we don't put it in properly, or the inspection fails, then you're gonna have to do it then, or my insurance premiums will be outrageous. Okay?
That's so much time.
Yes,
It's next to impossible to get parts and replacement parts.
they're too old.
And
Yeah.
for the building I have,
Yeah,
they have to replace the whole thing.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over. You got your useful life. The next article request is the HVAC server. This was sort of low on their list of priorities. So we can fund it. Kristen was a little, she could do it this year or next year. She was comfortable either way. It's $9,000. I can do it. You could fund the article and they can spend it when they need it, whether this year or next.
For $8,000?
I think it's 9,000.
9,000
With 8 here.
on this list?
I think you're looking at the gym.
Number
door.
8.
Should be
I
line,
mean, 9 rather, yeah, 9,000.
9,000 should be line 40. Okay. Did I have it wrong in the warrant? I do have it wrong in the warrant. Sorry about that. Thank you, Bob. Good catch. Okay, special education stabilization. They're requesting 100,000. I'm recommending 50. They are going to probably draw 50 this year. So I'm recommending just refilling it back.
So we'll bring it back to the 100,000.
Correct. As you know, in order to draw from that, they'll need a vote of the school committee and a vote of the Board of Selectmen. But I think it was a good idea so that they don't get caught short in the middle of a year. They don't have to pad a budget, they can actually budget for what they know, and this is the safety valve.
It's worked well this past year.
Article 17 is that's, by the way, that's all the school articles, in case there's, you know, you guys want to vote that school article so they'll leave happy? The next one is the authorization into pilot agreements. This may not withstand the test of the lawyers. I wanted to put the selectmen in the ability to enter into pilot agreements at their will and pleasure. It may require that the vote go two ways. One, authorizing the Board of Selectmen to negotiate a pilot, but still requiring the approval of town meeting. So I'm not sure what will survive the lawyers, but there's no money involved in this at the moment.
Could you just quickly explain pilot agreement?
Sure. Pilot is payment in lieu of taxes. So you take a solar farm, for example, and there's a heavy investment to get in and a very rapid depreciation schedule. So your tax collection is very high in the first year, and by about the 8th, 9th, and 10th year, it's nothing. So a lot of the people who build these want to be able to predict more reliably their cash flow. And if they pay the tax in the first year, they're showing a loss. In addition, it ups our tax levy by that value, and that never goes down. So if you agree to a pilot which levels the value out over 10, 15, 20 years,
Right.
we can predict a more steady cash
And it works
flow,
for them.
so can they. So it's better for the town, it's better for the facility to do it that way.
Gotcha.
In addition, they've changed the rules about taxation and depreciation for solar farms 14 times in 10 years. So I'd really rather be able to get into an agreement that's gonna
So this
predict out the
is
flow.
more specific for
forever.
a solar farm.
That generally, speaking, the law sort of, if you read the law one way, it says you have to take each pilot agreement to town meeting. If you read it another, it says you can authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate a pilot and enter into a pilot if they have pre-approval from town meeting to do so. So, right at the moment, I'm having an argument with our lawyers about which way
It's gonna be
to interpret this. But at minimum, this will authorize the Board of Selectmen to at least enter into the negotiation. They may have to come back to town meeting for the approval of each one. So,
Thank you.
no problem. Article 18, I'd like to postpone the discussion on this article because it's still in union negotiations. So we'll have an answer hopefully next week for you on that. Article 19 has been removed, so you won't even have to do hearings on that. Article 20 is to amend the regional agreement for Old Colony. There is a copy on file at the town clerk's office. I'm gonna put the red line version up on the website so people can look at it. I'm glad they're doing it, I guess, but the changes are very insignificant. So it can't be at all controversial, so I'm not too worried about it. Article 21 is to accept Chapter 44, which allows us to establish the cable fund as a revenue receipts reserved fund. The state is sort of changing the regulations. You can either run it as an enterprise fund, you can run it as a department, which would mean all the money goes into the general fund, or you can run it as a receipts reserved, so the revenue goes into a receipts reserved for cable account. Julie is recommending that we run it as receipts reserved. It does require that the town meeting now vote a budget, which is in the package. The budget says they can spend up to $90,000 in payroll, and they can spend $100,000 a year without a town meeting vote to purchase upgrades to equipment. Now, the most important thing is if they don't spend the money does not go to the general fund. The money is not available for reappropriation. It goes back to the receipts reserved account and it stays there. So no money is lost regardless of the amount of money we vote for a budget. If the budget is not spent, any excess returns to the fund from which it came. So that money is perpetually reserved for cable. Article 22 is an authorization for the Board of Selectmen to enter into finance or leasing agreements for more than 3 years. Currently, state law, Chapter Um, 30B requires a town meeting vote for any contract longer than 3 years. This does not mean, personnel labor contracts. This is only goods and services. So, for example, the golf carts. The Board of Selectmen would be able to enter into a longer lease than just 3 years, which would have been very helpful, a year ago. So this is a pretty good article for the town to do. It allows us to be much more competitive in a business sense. Article 23 is the change of the town bylaw. This would change the annual town meeting to the second Monday in May, and the election would be the first Saturday following the town meeting. So the idea would be to move it off the school day and move it to more reasonable hours. Instead of 10 to 8 on a Monday, it would be 8 to 6 on a Saturday. I was waiting for you, John.
Indirect type of thoughts on with this situation, with this voting at the schools. We just did some figuring, and if you look at, we direct our services at 182 days a year. What goes on, instruction to the kids. The total $15 million budget is really focused on what happens in that 182 days. That means that we, with a $15 million budget, with 182 days, we spend about, will become $82,000 a day, okay? And if you break that down, that's pretty close to 7,000 some odd an hour. So what I'm saying from a financial point of view, the amount of money that we're spending to have, in order to get the results that we desire, especially with the gorilla in the room with talking about the MCAS scores, any type of deviation from that goal and the resources, the amount of money that the community is putting in to reach those goals, any type of minor compromise becomes really a slightly more costly adventure. So therefore, I'm just pointing out, and usually the days that we have elections at in my estimation, are the most important days of the year in a sense of production, of instruction, because it's more moderate weather. You get the days that are in June, and you get the days prior to Labor Day. There's 90 days, could be 90-degree temperatures, and that does interfere with the quality of instruction in my estimation. Unless now that we have to go into, we're thinking if we're broadening the days on each end because we want to meet certain type of endeavors in the course of the year, that we have to probably start looking at air conditioning or something like that. Again, we're talking about more fiscal, investment, where when we start using the schools for other purposes other than the main focus of what happens in 182 days. So so I think we have to keep this in mind. It's an indirect thing on this article, but because as the superintendent's here, and I appreciate her sense of a priority as far as increasing our MCAS scores and what's happening in order to make our students more competitive. In my estimation, having the elections at the schools and moving the professional days when you could have more professional days on days that less instruction for the youngsters are needed. So I think it's just taking a look at our priorities here. And so I just want to voice my concern publicly that the school should not be used for other purposes other than what we, the taxpayers, are really paying a great deal of money for in order to have the maximum amount of reward, so to speak, of what their investment is. So it's a fiscal issue indirectly to this one on Saturday, but I think we should,
I'm just wondering if it's financially beneficial to have it at the school or have it at the old places. Well, how much more does it cost to keep it at the old places than the school?
we had no in budget when they transferred, if I remember.
And it will most likely a heck of a lot convenient for the seniors in different places to be doing it at their own, like at the senior center here and there, versus going all the way from down the south end of course, all the way up to and everybody voting in one place. I think it was so much more convenient for people to vote in their own sections of town, I think.
Their own precincts.
In their own precincts. I mean, I've heard different places, I've talked to people, and they said, yeah, I wish we could go back to the old system. It was so much easier to get to the polls, and it depends on how much, if there's a huge amount of money difference in going from one place to another. Is it
I know
worth
the
it?
town clerk had concerns about moving all the people and the involvement in having different setups, if I recall correctly.
Well, they have 3 setups.
Yeah, but it involved more people moving around different locations, and then they'd have to have.
Why would I don't see why it would have more people involved.
Rather than having it in one general location, I'm not sure, I mean.
Well, I'm trying to direct it on a fiscal issue. The budget was not decreased when it was, when I checked the budget figures, it was the same. So there was no reduction in cost. So it wasn't it probably had good intentions. I mean, good intentions from perspective of the people that were proposing it. In the sense, well, gee, it's more efficient in one place and so forth, coordination of staff. But if we had a cost savings factor, and but it didn't.
Yeah.
So
In my opinion, I think you're going to get less people showing up at the polls, especially on a Saturday morning, when people work all week long.
Actually, I think just the opposite, to be honest with you, because
You would rather spend Saturday morning.
I'd rather go vote on a Saturday, and I think having it on a Saturday in the school has no impact on instruction in the school, because it's on a Saturday.
Well, I'm not talking about Saturday, even Saturday voting, I would think.
We have it in one central location. We have a relatively small town here. That way, there's no confusion. Everybody knows where they're going to go, and
For each
it's a big
election.
area.
I doubt that some of our
parking.
locations from the past would support a presidential election. The library's too small.
Been doing it for the last how many years?
Not based on the number of people who are now showing up for presidential elections. Your library has 45 parking spots, and it doesn't have enough space in the community room to run it as a polling location. The senior center has enough space in the building, but not as, and a little more of parking facility, but not enough.
Like, a lot of times, people would end up parking on Middle Road, and
Right,
they had to vote at the library.
correct. And my concern would be now in May, we'll probably have a little more daylight, so they'll be able to walk on Middle Road without, not being in the dark, but it's a pretty heavily traveled road, and people drive on that road pretty fast, so it's a safety issue for me, and if you did it at the senior center, which is the other choice, it's up to the town to decide, it's actually the town clerk
So
who
town
decides.
clerk's call, really.
So the senior center would require parking on South Main Street, which it's a state highway, you're not supposed to park on it, and then you got all those PJ Keating trucks running up and down, I don't think that's safe.
When I had at the library, there were 2 precincts. So therefore, that's where you had the 2 precincts there, 2 and 3. If you had just 3 there, I don't think, then the same, on the parking, it won't be as bad as it was. The Grange had plenty of parking spots, if I remember. And, that was, it was a great location, and we invested community preservation money into that building for one of the purposes to vote there, and all of a sudden, 1 year later, that investment didn't pay off. I wanted to address my remarks, however, to a big cost factor as far as and just so people know going up front, that in my estimation, that it could have posed a hindrance to the instructional operations of the schools, and what the cost of that is, and bring that, to forefront, because of the priorities, as I said before, of the school is basically to keep the quality of educational instruction. And losing those days, and all the planning, I think would have a possible negative effect. So I was speaking from a fiscal point right now at this point. So I don't know whether.
It was a Saturday,
But
right?
this is proposing that it'll be on Saturdays, right?
So it's not going to
Yeah.
have an effect.
Tom.
I really want to be careful. I mean, this is sort of a call for you guys to as a town to make, but
Right.
Saturday elections for bedroom communities are very doable.
The question I have too, but early voting, we're getting off, on the early voting negates some of it. But precinct 1 has its own distinct voting patterns, slightly different than 2 and 3. And yet there'd be that, and also there are more moderate income people living in precinct 1. They could have more of a difficult time voting there, up in the north end of town. It could be perceived, but I have to look at figures before I really come to this conclusion. But it could be, and it's happening all over the country, by the way, and there's a great deal of discussion about voter repression. And I really in one way, due to the inconvenience and also the lack of transportation among people, especially some of them with families that only have one automobile, so therefore, it's used for one of the people in the family to go to work. The other people in the household can't even get to the polls. So is a pattern of voter repression here that we're looking at. But I'm saying that as a possibility, and I think we have to really look at all of the figures. But it's happening all over the country, where they're gerrymandering and having voting areas in another county, so the people of that ethnic and racial background can't go there. Now, I'm probably doing apples and oranges.
We don't have that problem.
No, but I mean, but I think with the elderly and low moderate income people in precinct 1, I think we're posing an obstacle to their voting. It could be more opinion than fact, but I'm just raising that as an issue. I think all of the statistics should be looked at.
Perhaps when we could have that discussion with the town clerk at some point.
But I think the big issue is, are we getting a bang for our buck as far as in costs by being there?
With the schools.
Yes, I think that's a big issue.
Either you ladies like to weigh in on this?
Well, I would just say it's not ideal to have it on a school day. From what I saw, it did seem to run very well. The kids had a good school day, but we did have high absenteeism at the elementary school on that day. We had 154 children absent that day.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What's the normal absentee rate then?
Maybe 25 children.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just point out, I think that was a concern from parents, safety concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Even though the administration and town went above and beyond to make sure our students were safe that day, and it was well orchestrated and
Mhm.
went off.
Do they only have
That hitch.
one door open for the rollers to come in? They can't come in any other door?
Yeah,
So
it was one
That's
door.
right.
Just one door, and they have 2 police officers there.
More than that, we had a police officer at each door in the
And there was
gym.
somebody outside, I know when I went to go,
Mhm.
they were outside, so.
Oh, yeah.
As far as security wise,
It was very safe.
unless you have a metal detector at the door for. You
Yeah,
don't know
our
what-
children did not have access to the voting area,
Yeah.
and the general public did not have access to
To
the
the
school.
school. Yeah, so. I think we can eliminate, just about eliminate the.
But a Saturday voting day would eliminate the one day.
Parent concern,
Right.
yeah.
For next year, we're having, what, 3 election?
Four.
Before. So,
But those would be on school days.
correct, that's what,
Well, we're trying to make sure they're on professional days.
If we have that many. Right. Yeah. We'll do our best to work the calendar so that, it is a no-school day. If we have that many professional days, I have to look at it.
but wouldn't you plan professional days on days that, closing the classes, that does not have as much impact on the instruction, I mean, I'm sure in your research, you've shown that certain days have more production, so to speak, more learning than other days, and you would plan your professional day on the day that it does not have as much of an impact on the instructional.
Yeah,
Would
there's a
that
few-
be a better, way of planning it, your professional day?
So there's a
rather
lot of
than-
factors. It's the
Rather than
teachers-
being forced to have
Right.
on certain days, which probably with moderate weather and everything else, where you get more input into the,
Mhm.
so that's the point I'm making, because
Sure.
we're still struggling to increase, to get those MCAS scores up.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not gonna vote on that. There's nothing for us to vote on. But for the discussion purposes, it's something we can consider, and ask the town clerk to consider, as well as the board of
We can do
selectmen.
that after we finish the budget, so if you want to meet on the 17th, do those things after we've sealed the warrant.
The financial issues.
Yeah, because you don't have to express an opinion on that article for publication. If you wish to, we can always say, you can give your opinion at town meeting, but, you can do that. I think it,
Let the town meeting, let the town people vote on it.
Mhm.
That's
Let
their decision.
Their decision.
Yeah.
This decision will be basically on a Saturday, not the location.
Right.
Right. Okay, next article was held by the Board of Selectmen, it's in the net meter solar credit purchasing. We have a proposal from a company that's done a lot of municipal agreements to purchase net meter solar credits, so that would save us about $50,000 a year estimated. And obviously, it's a 20-year contract, so that's why it needs to go to town meeting. And I think that the board still wants to do its due diligence on that proposal, so we can certainly let them do that. The next Article 25 is to require direct deposit payroll for new employees entering town employment. This does not mean contractors, this means employees. And it would be grandfathered, so those people who are currently working for the system that still like a real live check can still have their real life check, but any new employees coming in would be required to be on direct deposit. 26 is an abandoned property registration bylaw. It's a bylaw change. This would require properties that have become abandoned or foreclosed to be registered with the town clerk's office, so we know who owns the property and who is responsible for maintaining it. We have more than a couple of properties that right now have been foreclosed upon, and then they packaged it, sold it, and we're having a tough time finding out who owns it when we have a problem. So this requires abandoned property to be registered with the town clerk's office so that we know who owns it. And if they don't, there are penalties for not doing it. So we have situations where we've had to go in and board up a house because it has been vandalized, because it's been emptied, or it's become a hangout. So we've had to go in and board it up at town expense because it's a public safety issue. And I'd like to know who I'm sending the bill to.
Hey, do you notice any increase or is it static on the number of abandoned properties?
The problem is, when you get them, it's nasty.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what the problem is. They're sort of like, we had one up on Nye, which was, I would call it a contentious foreclosure, and the family left on the way out, left the doors wide open, the water running, and I guess it wasn't cut for quite some time. It became somebody went in and took all the copper pipes out without turning off the water, and then it became a party hangout, and the cellar filled with mold, and we had a squatter living in the home, and then finally came to our attention from complaints from the neighbors, and with the assistance of the DPW, the building inspector, the police department, the fire department, we were able to condemn the property, board it up. But finding the owner in successive, first it went to Camden Bank, then it went to Wells Fargo, then it went to USA Bank. And by the time we found that out, it took us a couple of days to track them down. So we would like to tighten that up a little bit. Yeah. This is an article, actually. This is, I guess, causing a problem more in western Massachusetts than it is down here. But this was I got the wording of the article. So this is being adopted in not just our community. A lot of communities are wising up to this problem.
I think it's a great idea. So.
Number 27 is tightening up the zoning amendment. That's Article 8 in the town bylaws. I'll print out a copy for you guys so that you all have the changes. They're mostly editorial changes. There are some substantive changes. There will be a planning board hearing on those changes because it's a bylaw change. And then there'll have to be a hearing before the bylaw committee as well. And here, I'm gonna have to figure out how we're gonna take this thick book of things and make it, it's available now in the town clerk's office. I'm gonna put it up on the website as a red line version so people can read it. But it's still gonna go to the board. The planning board has to approve the changes or amend them in a public hearing. And then I need to put into the warrant, these are the changes that are occurring by section, but I don't have to list every change because I don't have enough paper to do that.
Right.
So. Okay, number 28 is a general bylaw proposal by the building commissioner to temporarily license storage and trailer boxes that are put on people's properties. Right now, think of it this way: if you want to build a shed, you need a permit, and it has to be so far back from the lot line, et cetera, et cetera. And there are size restrictions, but if you just take a trailer and dump it on your property, no rules. And some of those trailers look pretty ugly, and they can stay for a long time. So this would allow us to regulate that. Mostly I get complaints from the neighbors because, it's up too close to the lot line, or it's ugly, or I look out my kitchen window and this is what I see. And we have no town bylaw that addresses that at the moment. So this would put that in. Article 29 is a careful article. The state is redoing the Hamlin Street Bridge. In doing so, they may have to take some pieces of property on the side of the bridge construction. However, they're not sure right at the moment. The plan that's been drawn is the 25% plan. They don't show any land taking, but it could occur. So the DOT has asked us to put a reserve article in here so that we have an ability from town meeting to purchase by, I always get it, how they write it, by donation or purchase by eminent domain. And so we have to create the article. So
Preferably by donation.
would be nice. Well, the land that I think they really have in mind is already town land. And then that which is not belongs to the Fairhaven Acushnet Land Trust. So I don't think there's any private land. If there is, it's probably White's. So, but I can't identify from the plan that I've seen without a microscope to see precisely whose land might possibly be impinged. So, be nice to have that bridge, but you'd be thrilled to know they'll start construction mid-October is when they want to put a shovel into the ground. Of course, that could change, but I figure they'll put the shovel into the ground just in time to have it snow.
Right.
So, we'll see. Article 30 is a CPA article for school fields improvement, $25,000. They have voted that. The second article is the Parting Ways facade. We finished the interior of the building. Now it's time to fix the exterior of the building. I'd like to make the building look historically correct, and that's going to take a little bit of cash. About $25,000 is what Jim estimates. Between that and the other articles that have previously been voted, this should wrap that up. We've had complaints about the look of the building in the summertime with the box air conditioners hanging out the window. You spend all this money to historically preserve the building, and then you throw ugly air conditioners in it. So we have put forward an article to the CPA for adding ductless systems into the buildings, so we will not have to have air conditioners hanging out the windows. And that's $35,000. That's, by the way, both buildings, this one and Parting Ways.
You don't know how much is in CPC?
Sorry, oh, plenty. I'll get you numbers for the next meeting. Cemetery Board, this is the usual article. It allows the cemetery commissioners to actually work and be paid in the cemetery. Mowing the lawn, plowing the driveway, etc., digging the grave. So you're an elected board member, but you can also get paid to do the work. You have to have town meeting authority to do that. Same with Park and Rec. Number 35, we no longer have to reauthorize the actual revolving fund every year, but we have to reauthorize the spending cap. Now, this is confusing for a lot of people because they think that this is spending. It's not. Think of it this way. If you want to go with the senior center down to Foxwoods and you pay them your admission fee and you give it to them in a check or cash, whatever, and then they buy the bus and they buy the tickets, they receive the money, they pay it out. So that's not taxpayer money in that sense, it's activity money. So you're buying, we're authorizing the revolving fund, Park and Rec, the library, the Council on Aging, who else is there? There's one other. The idea is you take money and you pay it out. It's in, it's out, but it's event money. Okay. The next one is the library trustees, where we sell the old library books to the library trustees for $1. They sell the books in a book sale, and that money goes to the Friends of the Library, and then the Friends of the Library use that money for the library. Article 37 is OPEB funding, another $100,000 into our OPEB account. We are going to redo the article, the motion on town meeting floor. The state did not like the way we had phrased the motion last year on a technicality, so we're going to redo it this year and then catch up and fix the problem from last year. So we'll be moving the $210,000 that was in the Bartholomew Fund, formerly called the OPEB stabilization, the $100,000 from last year and this $100,000, and that will all go to the state trust fund. So that will happen with this. We met Julie met with the financial advisors to the town yesterday, and they are glad to see us finally looking at doing something with OPEB, and have recommended that if we indeed pass this article, that we should start the process of having our bond rating reevaluated for a possible upgrade. We can go up one grade, so in other words, a AA to a AA plus. And they think that by doing this, this would be the trigger for them to recommend that favorably. There's a couple other tasks that Julie has to do. She's not doing much between midnight and 8 a.m., so there's a couple other things for financial policies that would need to be adopted. It's not the one thing, it's about, I think that we can do it. If we can upgrade our bond rating, then when we borrow money, we spend less money. So I think this is really worth the effort. and they're looking at the fact that we're finally doing something about our OPEB liability. And I want to be honest with you, it isn't much, but it's enough.
Right.
Okay? We have a plan, but by the way, they think our plan is not a plan. You know, our plan is to finish paying off the Bristol County retirement debt, which is 2027, and then we'll be treading water on the OPEB until there. And then when we have that money, we'll switch it to paying off our OPEB liability, and we'll catch that up. So probably by 2040, we will be done. Okay? I probably won't be alive, but John will, so,
All right, I hope we're all sitting here.
yeah. Yeah. Well, the best way to describe it, we didn't create the problem overnight, we're not gonna fix it overnight, but that's our plan.
Do you have to wait that long for me to think about how we're gonna use some money?
Yeah. Hopefully by that time.
I'll be there, I'm gonna wait for that.
He's gonna live long enough to see it.
So I will.
And the last article, of course, is the resolution of gratitude for those people who served the town in the calendar year 2018. So, that's what I got for you tonight. Now, based upon the recommendations of spending that I've given you in the sheet, we have some money left over, waiting to find out how much we're gonna need to put in for the police contract and union, and the other union contracts. I'm waiting for those numbers to come in. And then I would like to go back and revisit the road article and bring that as close as I can to the 250. And then any loose change after that goes into the stabilization account. If we put the stabilization money in at 250,000, right now we're at 2.7 million. So we put the 250, we're getting closer. We'd like to be 10% of the operating budget. You know, that's our, if you will, our rainy day fund. We know that the economy isn't always going to be this good, and that someday we're going to have a bad time. So you'd keep that fund ready and available. You wouldn't spend it all in one year. The plan would be you would phase in the use of it, so that you could slow down the operation, but without impinging services too greatly. And then hopefully by the time that you got too thin on the rainy day fund, the economy's picking up and going the other direction. But that's the idea of having stabilization money. Also, the more we have in stabilization, the better our bond rating is.
Exactly.
Where did we leave off on the voting?
Pardon me?
Where did we leave off on the voting?
We didn't get far. 10 and 11, I think, are the only ones that...
Can I go down the list here? And just call for the question there? Copy machine for the police department. Yes or no?
I'm
In favor?
Aye. Need a second first?
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Okay, EMS ambulance laptops.
Where are you running from? I'm sorry, excuse me.
I'm on the spreadsheet, this one. I'm on line number 15.
9,500.
Right.
Motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Turnout gear, line number 16.
11,700.
Second. Don't need that.
Need and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line number 17, EMS, a fire pumper refurbishment, 25 grand.
Did they ever get a final number on that, or is that just a 25,000 estimate?
That's still an estimate.
And not to go over 25?
Can't go above 25.
Okay, I'll make a motion on that.
Motion made,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line number 18E, the tanker one repair for 5,000.
Make a motion.
That's a real number.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Highway Department lift gate, $4,000.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Highway Department Mohawk lift.
Motion 16.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Police mobile computers.
50,000.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line 22, speed limit sign 7,500.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line 23, town hall roof repair 30,000.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line number 24, water department utility truck.
60,000.
Thank you.
Motion.
That would come from water revenue reserve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line number 25, bulky item pickup 13,000.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line 26, voting machines 30,000.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
You want to hold off the highway fund?
Yeah, you're gonna adjust that number, right?
Okay, yep. Line number 29, curriculum adoption 50,000.
Can we, just
Sorry?
a quick question,
But
can we adopt a motion for all within Article 15 as you guys set forth? Or do we
Well,
have to
because
do-
we changed some of the funding. We dropped some of the recommendations on funding.
The heating system.
Adopted based on what the finance.
The
committee-
recommendation for the finance director and the town administrator? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
I'd just like to make a motion then that we adopt the finance, the budgeting for the school committee based on the finance department's recommendations.
Second.
That just avoids having to go everything
line
along.
by line. Okay.
I'll save time, thank you. Line number 41, special education stabilization.
Let me take a,
Yep.
Sorry.
We had a motion and a second.
yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Thank you. Line number 41, special education stabilization 50,000.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor? Opposed? So voted.
I would skip to line 46, because this involves finance policy. I think a positive vote would be a good idea. So that's the accept chapter 44, 53F,
53 for the
cable funding.
What have we been doing so far?
We would keep it a fund off the books. Well, you gotta understand why the DOR wants it on the books.
Yeah.
They want town meeting to approve it, needs to be accounted for in, it needs to be accounted for out. It's fine.
I'll make a second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? So voted.
Okay, do you want to take a vote on the leasing? It is financial.
Yeah, we'll do it, just protect.
Okay. So this is line 47, the authorization to lease above 3 years.
About 3 years.
Okay?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Okay, and the next one, you can or cannot, you don't need to on Article 25, line 50, which is required direct deposit. I don't care. Okay. Next one that has money, CPA article for school fields improvement, which is Article 30, line 55, $25,000.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? So voted.
Article 31, CPA article for the Parting Ways facade, $25,000.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? So voted.
CPA article number 32, line 57, adding HVAC to Parting Ways in Town Hall, $35,000.
Second.
Made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Line 60, do you normally take a position on the revolving fund authorization? Ken?
That's related to fiscal, we should.
We have.
Okay.
We have.
Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's fiscal, so I think you can, yep.
In case
So,
you get a question from the
Article
floor.
35, revolving funds authorization.
Make a motion. Second.
Motion made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
The authorization to sell books for $1.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? So voted.
Article 37, OPEB funding, $100,000.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna hold the stabilization until we actually have a real number.
Number.
I'm gonna ask you to.
Resolution of gratitude.
You could do
So
that.
moved.
Good. And then, where do you want to stand on the operating budget?
We'll go through it quickly.
Yeah, I think we can. So we right at the moment have a balanced budget. The issues that I can't give you yet is a final on the police budget, the fire budget, which includes fire EMS. Those two, we can't give you a final number yet, because we're still in contract negotiations. Other than that, everything is as we have told you. The only thing that did we ever discuss the cable budget? I don't think so. Cable budget's simple, it's 2 lines at the end of the budget. It's $90,000 for payroll and $100,000 for capital. Now, as I said to you earlier, don't anybody get excited, that's not to exceed, and any money unexpended returns back to cable receipts. So,
What's the status of the wage and classification?
The Board of Selectmen wishes to review that decision on Monday night.
So the numbers that we have before us.
The adopted vote, as you know, the Board of Selectmen did vote to adopt the wage and class. We put the numbers into the budget, but now the Selectmen would like to revisit that.
So those numbers that we have are subject to change.
Could change. Yep.
Any other questions?
We're meeting with them, next
Fine.
meeting, right?
No, their meeting is Monday night, your meeting is Wednesday night.
Are they, that's not the joint meeting?
They're not gonna do a joint meeting.
We're not gonna do a joint meeting, so. So they're gonna meet on Monday?
They're gonna meet on Monday, you'll meet on Wednesday.
We anticipate having the final numbers on,
Yes. So you could hold off on voting everything until Wednesday, but I mean, and a gun to my head, you could do the 17th, but I'd really like to be able to go to publication after that meeting on the 10th.
so we should have the final numbers
Yeah,
to vote on for
Yep.
next week's meeting.
I think we should try and get it done next week, because the following week is school vacation week, so.
right.
We will get it done.
I really don't want to, I mean, I have to publish a warrant, and I have to post it before a certain period of time, and I usually like a month in advance, so I'm invading my safety zone.
Comfort level.
My comfort level, yeah, I'm getting stressed out on it. So,
It's not so comfortable anymore.
it was easier last year. So I would really like to finish it up this next week.
Where we're gonna go.
You know, that's, because you have town meeting on the 13th of May,
Right.
and so it doesn't give me a lot of time to, you know, if I had to wait till the 17th, is that the next meeting after that? That would really be
Be tight.
tight. So I would be uncomfortable.
What time is the selectmen meeting on Monday?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
I invite all to tune in or attend.
Has the school department budget been finalized? Yeah, and the figures? We're still waiting for that one.
I know that the board voted a budget, then and we had to come back with a counter. I don't know if they've adopted another budget.
No, we have not.
Okay.
Okay, so-
That.
So what I'll need from you guys by next week is an answer. So I either change your request number or I don't change your request number. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right, that takes care of the budget articles. Old business and new business, I think new business, we have a request and transfer from a reserve fund that we'll take up next week from fire and EMS. Put that on the agenda for next week's meeting.
Can I have one thing for new business?
Pardon me?
Can I bring up one thing?
Sure,
For new
absolutely.
business? I think that maybe we should consider adopting on this committee web, internet meeting,
Remote participation?
the remote
Sure, I'll get you the
participation.
paperwork, you can consider that.
Is that something
Sure.
that we have to take up?
You actually have to
And
vote, yes. You have to, you have to accept the policy for remote participation.
You know, we've talked about it in the
Yes, we have,
past. I think in situations where we get so short-staffed that it would really be beneficial to the committee. I'd like to make that motion if we could, to adopt the, what's it called, I'm sorry?
No, you have to have the policy before you can vote it.
Okay.
That has to be on the agenda. So I'll get that ready for you. But I think if you're gonna do it, could we do it a meeting after the budget?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
so?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
whether we meet on the school vacation week or not will depend upon whether we're, gun to
Right.
our head.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to skip that meeting and then go to the 24th of April, we could put that on the agenda for then.
I just wanted to bring it up.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
This day and age, telecommuting is pretty easy.
It would definitely be beneficial, I think. That's all I got, thank you.
I've got a new, through the help of the schools, I've got a new in focus board, so we're getting rid of that, and we're gonna go to a smart board, so thank the school.
Stay home, it's nice and warm.
So you could have pictures of people on there remoting in. They could look like they're there, it's good, it's all good.
Anything else on the new business? Want to bring anything up? No. Okay, next meeting will be next week. We have minutes to approve, the minutes of the February 13th meeting. Absent was Susan Nodano, Robert Ferrera, and Jackie Stanley.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion made second to adopt these minutes. All in favor? Opposed? So voted. Next meeting will be the 10th, 7 o'clock. And hopefully we will finalize the budget and the articles at that meeting. Brian, do we still have a tentative mock town meeting with the...
I gotta talk to the moderator's in a trial and very antisocial at the moment. So as soon as I can get his attention, we'll pick a date. I usually do it a couple weeks before town meeting, so sometime around,
Will we do it here or at the school?
right here. Yeah. And it's interesting to know, it wasn't well attended for an audience, which disappointed me, but the number of times it was downloaded was quite pleasing. So it does mean that people are paying attention
Right.
and they are interested, and hopefully that will translate into making sure we have a quorum for town meeting.
Right. And they get there, they're better informed because they've
Correct.
had that.
I am gonna mail out, we have a list of those who attended last year's town meeting, so I thought I would mail the warrant directly to their house so they could have it in advance. Maybe that would encourage people to attend. So I have the list, and it'll cost me a little in postage, but if I can get people better informed and happier to show up at town meeting, I'm thrilled.
No further business before the committee.
So motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.